Welcome to Monday Motivations, 52 Weeks to a More Purposeful You. I'm Corry Mendoza, and this week we're going to be talking about contribution with Traci Bacchetti, somebody who has contributed to my life in such a way. I mean, as I was getting ready this morning, thinking about getting to see you and connect and having you on, I was thinking there are two leaders in my life that have influenced me the most for two very different reasons. And it's you and Marilee Deffick. And because I get to do now, I train leaders and I work with organizations to help them with leadership. I'm so grateful to have had you as honestly the best leader, and then Marilee Deffick in another way with, being a best leader. But you've contributed to my development. For those of you who don't know Traci Bacchetti, she is the CEO of Hold That Thought, which is a national marketing company. We had just started refreshing my memory on part of your company does on hold dialogue.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay, it started with that.
Yeah.
And then now you're a marketing company. And but we met, were you my marketing manager, sales manager?
It was marketing director.
Oh, you were a marketing director for
Mhm.
a financial title company.
Mhm.
And I was on the sales team. I was a title rep, a sales rep. And when I joined in 2005, I was like a sponge and you just poured into me and I knew nothing about nothing. And I think because of you, I made my first vision board, which
You are too modest, Corry.
no, you're amazing. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much. So what did you think about this week's message of contribution?
Well, it resonated immediately. It's something that I wouldn't say so much that I teach that or that I have shared that particular message as much as I like to think that I embody it. That it's a natural instinct for me, as I've always been a people person, and helping others is something I've done most of my life. So I didn't have to work so hard at becoming that because it was already there. But I will say that learning anything, any natural gift that you have, anything like that, the more that you refine it, the more that you learn about it, the more that you make it intentional, which is really going to be kind of my theme about today, is I think when you make contributing to others intentional, you get it back tenfold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the introduction that you gave me about yourself, really, it all began with just opening the door of communication, making a safe place for all the sales reps. If they had a challenge or they had a circumstance that they hadn't come across before, they're trying to target a particular client and they were feeling like they were hitting the wall, you try to create an environment that people can feel safe and comfortable and inspired by. And I had people like that in my career coming up the ladder. And it was something that was very easy for me to do because I enjoyed it and because I got to work with wonderful sales reps like yourself. But, I mostly opened the door. And then as you brought things to me, I just highlighted solutions as they came about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned about creating safety and making people comfortable. That is definitely one of the contributions that you make. And I think all of us, we are contributing to other people, but the question is, are we contributing things that cause safety and openness, or are we contributing things that are doing the opposite?
Yeah, exactly. And the in contributing sometimes, and this is something that's not really in your message, but I think is important on the subject. As I've gotten older and I now, have grandchildren and other things, I'm a different phase of my life and my career. I will tell you that sometimes contributing is what you don't do as much as what you do.
Ooh, that's juicy.
So sometimes contributing wisdom is in the sense of, and in some cases, you and I experienced this when you were early on in your career. It was pointing you in the right direction, not doing it for you, but giving you the tools to do it for yourself.
What can you give an example of, maybe in the last 5-10 years or a couple years, of you either seeing that opportunity to contribute by not contributing?
By not doing for them?
Yeah.
Well, I have staff and I have an adult daughter, all very capable, all different personalities. But my daughter's probably a lot more like me, and
like mine is
very
like
headstrong and very capable, but not necessarily always as open. So like I said, I see a lot of myself in her, and I think my contribution to her is not trying to force her to listen, not trying to force my approach on how she does things. Listening, respecting, and being a person that she feels like she wants to come to when she has a challenge, and allowing her to take whatever counsel I have to give, and respecting her ability to take the part of it she can use and apply, and not being personally offended if she chooses to try something different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's with my staff as well. Sometimes with my staff, my contribution is when there's not often a mistake, but a lot of what we do, there's a lot of hands-on, personal, human interaction doing the work. And so a lot of times I just handle a lot of, and anytime there's an issue that comes up or a question that a client has, I'm usually that face of our company. But occasionally, when a mistake has been made, and maybe it's been made before, maybe a long time ago, but if I see that mistake is happening more than once with a staff person, I'll ask that person sometimes to go directly to the client and deal with the client directly. I'm not jumping in, I'm not fixing it, I'm not making it okay with everybody, like I normally would. I'm deciding to make that a teaching moment, and my contribution is, when you go through the process of making it good with a client, you learn a lot and you pay more attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, and everything that you're describing, what I really hear is that our contribution, we know we're contributing to others if they're growing and developing. And we have to have wisdom and discernment in how we support their growth and development. Sometimes it is pouring out, sometimes it's not.
Well, I would say, again, we're all unique individuals. I have always been a person who gravitated to learning, reading, watching things now, whether it's online or on TV, making sure it's a valid resource, because you have to do that today.
Yeah.
Growing up, it wasn't quite so much that way for me. There was a lot of good information, a lot of good ways to get that information, but today it's exponentially so. But now you have to figure out, is this good information that I'm reading?
Yeah.
But all in all, I've always gravitated towards education, sales of education, providing education. But I'm one of those people that is like, I want to find all the pieces of the puzzle and put it together. I want to know what that is, or how to do that, or how that works. And as a person who does that, who is habitually that way, I find that one of the contributions that I personally make is I learn what my clients need to know so I can spoon feed it back to them.
Yeah.
I don't learn it because I need it for myself, But I learned the things because I am a person that will take the time to do that, to do research, to do those kinds of things that I've learned very early in my career when I worked with you, for example. I had two premises in which we ran our marketing department. One was exactly that, to learn what our clients needed to know and find ways to demonstrate that to them so that there would be a good reason for them to engage with the sales team. The other one was lead by example. So doing the things that we knew that our clients should be doing often opened doors for us.
Yep.
And that is something that today my contribution with the clients that I have is a little different. For some of them, and I'm sorry, that is mine. I should put
That's
that
okay.
on.
This is
Okay. With my clients today, I have a couple of different kind of clients. I have the really hands-on clients that want to know how to do everything for themselves. And then I have the clients that don't want to do anything and they're completely
dominant drivers,
And
right?
so my contribution to the latter is I tell them, when you work with me, we take care of all those details. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do it. If you ever want to do it, if you ever want to access anything, I will walk you through how to do it. But most of them don't really want to learn. They don't want to know. They just want it. They want the results, but they don't want to be any part of the process. The other people, which I have heard, good and bad reviews over the years about the fact that I will stop what I'm doing when somebody calls. If I can, I will stop what I'm doing. I will engage with them personally, and I will walk them through each step for them to learn, so they can learn how to do what they want to do. And I get a lot of positive feedback from my clients. My husband, who does the billings, often looks at me sideways, but but the clients love it and I love it. And that's kind of where we come to to another part of the questions of your podcast today.
We'll keep going. Yeah.
Well, it has to do with, in every bit of my life, it started with something that was instinctual for me. And it's not instinctual for everyone, but for me, it always has been. I'm an oldest child of three. I think there's a lot of these characteristics, other people who find that themselves in that order, find that the oldest often is the responsible one who has to take care of others. And you learn you just learn to be aware that there are other people that you can help and you do it. And it feels good when you help other people. And then eventually in career, it becomes something, like I said, a lot more something that you intentionally do. And it becomes a habit. And I think for me, that's one of the advices that I would give to others is it's a habit worth developing. That as you get older, and I'm certainly am in a later chapter in my career, in my life, which I'm very happy to be there, by the way. But there is a different perspective that you have. And I will tell you that a lot of people I've worked with in the past, very successful, and even clients that I have today, I have beautiful relationships with these clients because we all have come to the understandings, and not in spite of, but probably in part because of the pandemic that we all went through, that the relationships that you build and the leaders and the people who are coming behind you, that you are opening those doors for, that you are making your contribution, whatever your contribution is. Some of the people out there are really great with spreadsheets and things that are, Greek to everyone else. Find a way that you can impart that knowledge, empower other people to learn how to read a spreadsheet or a P&L or something else if they're looking to become a business person. There's a lot of aspects. There's the sales and marketing. There's sometimes in the beginning for me, I just knew a lot of talented people and people would come to me. I used to have a company called Elegant Events, and I did event planning in the 80s. And people would always come to me and say, where did you get, that band, or where did you get, that artist, that character artist, or where did you, where those flowers come from? I mean, because I was such a networker by nature that I started a business from that. But whatever you have, and what you have doesn't have to be a tangible gift. It just has to be something that you're passionate about, that that you people compliment you on that particular skill or talent or ability. And you take that and when you find ways to help others, bless you.
Thank you.
When you find ways to help others, it is so much more fulfilling. You'll hear that word a lot, and people talking about careers. What is fulfilling? Fulfilling is doing something you enjoy doing and helping other people, which gives you another sense of that little runner's endorphin, that people get, that makes you want to get up and do it the next day. And, making money is great. And it doesn't have to, this is not only does it not separate from making money, I've made way more money with much less effort by incorporating and being a contributor to everybody I meet. And the thing is the other part of the passage in your book, which I like to think I inspired a little bit of that.
Oh my gosh, Traci.
But anyway,
yes.
But anyway, and only say that because we were doing those little motivations at one time.
Oh yeah. But Zig Ziglar, you introduced me to, yeah.
But anyway, the whole thing is that a lot of what I did when I worked with you before, it was not my original content.
Right.
It was, I would read content that I thought would be really helpful to people that I worked with, people that I knew. I had a client that had lost a son, and she wrote a book about grief, and it was a beautiful book. And I bought copies to give to people when they lost somebody close to them. And it's something that you do. And the money that I have made since going out on my own has been effortless. I have to say that. I mean, I used to hear people talk about that when I was earlier in my career, when I was in my 30s or 40s. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I am hustling, like no other. And the truth is, when you get that right combination, of qualities and habits, it just is effortless. And so I know I was somewhere before you sneezed, that I'm now in the later part of my career, losing my train of thought on that. But it really does come down to take inventory of what you do and what you do well and how you do it and what you enjoy doing, and then identify people that you can help those people. And a lot of times, like I said, it is really just so second nature. It's not, I think we were going to talk about something in that passage that was, oh my goodness. I guess I should have had it in front of me now. It'll come back to me in a second.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a lot about contributing to others that is both
you're talking about fulfillment.
It's self-rewarding, but it also is financially rewarding. That it really is something that once you start doing it, people will come to you. Now you do have to, I have to say that you have to be disciplined enough to understand the users of the world from the people who genuinely appreciate your contribution.
Yeah.
And that's one of the areas where I usually give people the benefit of the doubt until they prove to me that that's who they are. I will continue to give. But when I understand that okay, this is a person who, who's not really ready for my contribution, who's not appreciating the contribution. Yep. Then okay.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to you've touched on it, and it just is kind of woven into everything that you're saying, wisdom. There's a proverb that says something to the effect of like, don't cast your pearls before swine. So it's like, not that people are swine, but like we have to guard our treasures and notice, when I contribute to this person, is it wasted or does it?
No, I would put it this way. There are people who are ready for your contribution, who are prepared to do something constructive with your contribution. And there are people out there who are not really ready or worthy. And when they're not ready or they're not worthy, then you have to save it for those who are, because there's only so much of you to contribute.
Yeah. And so that's another lesson. Yeah, that's a big lesson that you taught me again and again was, I think you used to tell me, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to everything else. So
or exactly. It's, and I have to I still remind myself of that, is that, I cannot, when I say yes to everything else, there's something important that I'm saying no to, whether
yeah.
it's intentionally or unintentionally. And the prioritizing is so important. And we're always having to juggle and reevaluate our priorities.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and over your lifetime, like you said, so basically this ability to contribute to others, it started off instinctual, then it became intentional, now it's a habit, and you've basically sharpened your natural, like you have a natural drive to contribute to others, but you've
Well,
really
and for those
harnessed
who are a
it.
little more dominant drivers out there, if we haven't lost you by now, the thing is
I love it. Two
truly,
eyes together.
yeah, truly, you will make a bigger difference and you'll make more money when people feel connected and that you're contributing to their success. And that's what we used to talk about back when you and I worked together years ago, Corey, was that, you team up with people, you help them be successful, and then they have the opportunity to reciprocate.
Yep.
And I think that's
Mhm.
still true today. I
Absolutely.
remember now what I was going to say.
Oh,
when
yeah,
I
there it is.
And that was the pandemic itself made people slow down, made people reevaluate, made people rethink what's important in their lives and who's more important in their lives, and what kind of a legacy, do we want to leave behind? When you're young, you don't really think about those things because they're so far away. But yesterday was my birthday and I turned 64 years old. And so it is a completely different view from here than
Yeah.
it was when I was your age. And I will tell you that it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I wouldn't trade places for anything because, my road hasn't always been smooth sailing, as most people's have not. There have been bumps along the way, but I had enough mentors in my career and in my life. And my father was a great personal example of positive thinker, that the bumps, they turned into an e-ticket ride, not necessarily a negative thing, but they turned into something that led me somewhere else that was great. And so the contributions that I've received from others probably are what made it so easy and instinctual for me to do that for someone else. And so during the pandemic, I actually, I really never worried about it. People think I'm crazy, but honestly, I didn't worry. A lot of my clients are real estate folks, probably 60, 70% of them are. And nobody knew what was going to happen when the pandemic hit. But because of the contributions I had been making all along, I even had a gal from Sacramento call me and say, I was looking at what I could cut back just in case. But she said, you know what? I think about all the ways that you've helped me and all the times you've been there and all the time you've spent. And she said, I'm not cutting your service. And it made me feel very rewarding that, that people do appreciate that. And some of these really busy folks that were very successful clients that I have would stop and take time, and they would call me and they would pick my brain. And, my husband doesn't think that's very good billing hours because we bill for those things. But for me, I felt respected. I felt like the relationship we had was strong. I gained clients during the pandemic. I lost a few, but I gained way more than what I lost. And so, I think when you get older, your perspective changes and you realize the opportunity to help these people without, and this is an important part that's not really into passage, but when you help people without the expectation of something in return, it is much more genuine, much more authentic. And I think people know the difference. And they respond well. They respond well. In my case, they respond well to that. They appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think it also builds our own self-dignity and confidence when we contribute for the sake of just one-way contribution, not looking for tit for tat. It makes us feel good.
Right. And I think that the read that you get from the people that you're helping will let you know whether you're really helping or you're not really helping. You know,
Yes,
that's,
like what you're saying about your daughter.
yes.
And Skylar, she's 20, almost 21.
Well,
So
and it's not what, again, without some stumbling that I didn't come across where I now appreciate the real contribution that I make to her is not in giving her constant advice or being critical or any of the other things mothers do to try to be protective of their child, but to simply, help her develop her wings, let her know that you're there and be there when she needs you and when she calls and she asks for something without overdoing it. I'm an overdoer. So withholding some of that passion that I have has worked really well in that part of contributing.
yeah, so you've said so many great things. I think just to kind of bullet point some of them, I love how you started off in the beginning that contributing isn't always doing. Sometimes it's supporting and allowing somebody else to do for themselves or figure it out. You also, I wrote this down that when we are contributing, if somebody doesn't receive it, want it, need it, for us to not get personally offended by it, because we're not doing it to get the kudos back. It's just about giving. You also talked about leading by example. And then I think another thing that kind of came up was our sense of purpose. When we are contributing, it really validates our
fulfillment. It creates
fulfillment. Yep. And then also you touched on many times about how when we come from contribution, the dollars follow. And I think that is kind of in here, strive not to be a success, but to be a value. I think that's Albert Einstein. Yeah. Strive not to be a success, but to be a value. And then Zig Ziglar's quotes in here: if you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want.
And that one, the Zig Ziglar quote is one that definitely resonated with me. And it's something I have seen work with many different types of salespeople and many different kinds of occupations, that is, and the word abundance can't be stressed enough. When you come from a place where, my example about the pandemic wasn't to pat myself on the back so much as it is to show when you come from abundance, I always feel like that I'm coming from a place of abundance. If there's plenty for everyone who's deserving, there is plenty. And anything I can do to help somebody along the way is helping from the same people who helped me along the way. And there is not, it's not a contest.
Yeah.
And we don't even all want the same things, and we don't all aspire to the same levels. And the more we can work together and the more good quality people there are out there in leadership, the better we all are.
Oh, so important. So important. I think as we start to wrap this up, I'm curious, who is contributing to you? I know that you contribute to a lot of people, but who are some, you mentioned earlier, like finding good information, good authors. Who are some of the people, the books, the podcasts, the resources that are contributing into your growth right now?
Well, that's a really good question. And it's probably not a fair answer that I'm going to give you, because my library, like yours, is humongous. And I probably go back and revisit some of the things that I already have. As I have been, I've been working from home for 9 years now. And so when the pandemic hit, it was no big deal for me because I've been doing it for 9 years. And I'm a little more isolated than I used to be. So my opportunity to share content is more limited to specific situations with clients. And so there is not, I'm not probably doing as much of the, I'm not going to seminars. I'm not, I'm not as out there pursuing information the way I did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I would say today, what I do is when I have a client, if I have experience or I have a book I already have that I'm already familiar with, I go there, I pull information, I send that along. Or I'm a Googler,
Yeah.
I Google and I research just for that one client, for that one subject. And I go through a lot of material, and it goes through this filter of experience that I have, and the things that I glean that I think are helpful to this particular person in this particular circumstances, I share that. It is a lot different than how it used to be, but I would just say that everybody's going to find somebody that resonates with them. And if you don't, I have a really easy solution. You go on to your whatever social media platform that you are participating in, and you say, I'm looking for information on this subject, or an author who's a specialty in this subject, and people will contribute. Talk about contributions.
Oh yeah,
People
it's so
will
easy to
contribute.
source
You
now.
just have to ask, and
Yeah.
people will send it to you. But as far as sales leaders and things like that,
I'm more curious, like for Tracy, like in the last week, like was it an article on a rainforest, or it doesn't have
okay,
to
well, I will tell you. So
Yeah.
what happened yesterday?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
I can remember yesterday.
Okay.
So yesterday, I happened to do a newsletter for the community that I live in. And so one of the things that I look for is content for my community where I live, which is different than my business community. And so we live in an older area that has fairly large lots. A lot of people have pets, et cetera, et cetera. If you go on Nextdoor any given day, 2/3 of the content is about somebody's pet being out, being lost, somebody pooping on somebody's yard. It's all about pets. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to craft an article on, if you want to have good neighbors, be a good neighbor.
Oh.
And I went and I researched online all these, and I ended up with probably about 3 or 4 really good articles, which I gleaned from each, and I'm giving all the authors credit that this information was gleaned in part from these authors' articles. And it's something that we kind of know how to be a good neighbor, but I thought, there's probably some things I haven't thought about, and there were some good things in those articles. And so I just kind of picked the meat of it that I thought would be really helpful, because my neighborhood is going through a transition. It has been an older, almost farming community for many, many, many years. And now we have lots of diversity coming in. We have families coming in. We have people from different national origins. We have probably 4 or 5 different kinds of churches that, were not necessarily here 20 years ago. And so there's a lot of anxiety within the community about these changes. The amount of, the growth and building and expansion of homes coming to the area, and all of the families that are coming with that growth, and the changes that are happening. And without being preachy on a pedestal, which would have been my instinct, I said, that probably, the old Dr. Phil, that probably wouldn't work for me too well. So I decided to say, all right, well, let's just approach it just, from a personal standpoint, is we all want to have good neighbors. We all need to be good neighbors. And here's some ideas from experts out there on how to be a good neighbor. It's a little bullet point kind of thing, but it has with a little explanations on it. And so there's an idea of something that, while it is certainly not, but that same approach, that same process
foundational.
It works for any subject, for any kind of business situation.
Oh, and I bet you that in those bullet points, it could even be best practices when somebody new joins your team.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's fundamental principles that apply across the board.
Exactly.
When you mix people together, whatever our differences are, our reactions are pretty predictable. So
right. I mean, I think if you understand human nature, if you understand people, and you want to be a big contributor to people, I think that'll go a long way in your personal and your professional life. And that's really, to me, that wraps up what contribution is all about.
Yeah.
It's about, sharing your gifts with others.
Mhm. Well, thank you for sharing your gift with me and with our Monday Motivation followers and readers. So any last words of wisdom? You closed it out really nicely, but I always like to ask that last question. Any advice you want to give to yourself or others for inspiration on
Develop an intentional habit of contributing to others.
I love it. And for anybody that wants to meet with Traci for marketing needs, they can reach you at holdthatthought.com.
No, it's holdthatthought.biz.
Biz.
They can find me on Facebook. They can find me online. Yeah, I'm out there.
Oh, and
Or they can call you.
yeah, or just reach out to me and I'll connect you to Traci. So yeah, one conversation with Traci can just unlock so many possibilities. So
Well,
thank
you're
you,
very
everyone.
talented. I'm very proud of you. And I really can't take credit for doing anything more than opening a few doors, which you ran through and made the most of. Thank you, Corry.
Oh, thank you, Traci. We'll see everyone next week.
Bye-bye.